Sometimes in life, there are moments when things feel uncertain, and you might wonder, even for a moment, whether hope is something you can hold on to. And yet, in the quiet of those moments, if you were to pause just for a moment, you might notice how you've found your way through. Even when things seem difficult, it's almost as if the mind knows how to bring a little light, even when it seems distant, guiding you to a place where the next step becomes clear, without needing to force it. And sometimes, it's when you least expect it, that things begin to shift in a way that allows you to see a different path, even in the darkest times. Now it's interesting how when people feel like they've lost hope, they often believe they're no longer capable of creating change. And yet every day, people, just like you, find ways to reframe their experiences. You may not always see it immediately, but the way you perceive things shifts. Like the seasons change without even realizing it, the unconscious mind, in its wisdom, knows how to shift perspectives in a way that makes hope feel more like a possibility, a choice to move towards, a way of being, rather than something that's either present or absent. After all, isn't it true that you've overcome challenges before and emerged stronger? This means hope is always available, just waiting for the right moment to reconnect. And sometimes when it seems like hope is just slipping away, your mind might start to focus only on what's not working. But what if, just for a moment, you could break that pattern, shift the focus to something else, something you've done in the past that's brought you back to a sense of possibility? Imagine, just for a second, the moment when you felt certain things would change. When you knew something deep inside was pushing you towards action, pulling you forward. That feeling of certainty, that belief that you can change, can still be there, waiting for you to reawaken it. As it always has been within you, because isn't it true sometimes things feel worse before they shift into something better? And as soon as your mind remembers that, the very possibility of hope can start to grow. So as you think about times when things have felt difficult, you might notice, almost without trying, how your mind can shift to remembering a moment when you felt even a small spark of hope. And just as your mind easily brings up those memories, you may realize this is what your mind does naturally. It finds solutions. It finds hope, even when you didn't think it was possible. And just imagine, as you continue listening, how you'll begin to recognize more moments of hope, even when you aren't actively looking for them. It's as if hope is always there, waiting for you to reconnect with it. Perhaps there have been times when things seem dark, but just like a light switch being flipped, the moment you decided to see things differently, it brought in a new perspective, didn't it? You might find in the future that just as easily as you anchor yourself to past challenges, you can anchor yourself to moments where you discovered something new, something that allowed hope to emerge where it once seemed impossible. And with each small discovery, hope becomes a familiar feeling. Imagine for a moment a vast garden inside you, untouched and full of potential. Now, as you stand there, you might realize that, even in times when the garden seemed empty, there were always hidden seeds within it, seeds of strength and resilience. And as you stand there, it becomes clear that those seeds, they're ready to sprout and grow effortlessly, as if they've always been watching, waiting for the right moment. And the more you focus on this garden, the more you'll notice that every day new possibilities emerge, just like the seeds growing into something beautiful and unexpected. You know, there's an interesting thing that happens when people go through tough times. They often believe that what they're going through is a sign they're not capable of overcoming it. But when you think about it, isn't it true? The very things you've learned from challenges are the very tools that help you grow stronger. You may not always see it right away, but everything that you've been through has contributed to your ability to create new possibilities. It's as if With each experience, you're building an inner resource that makes the next step forward even more natural. Sometimes when it feels like everything is falling apart, it's almost as if the mind gets stuck in that one moment, unable to see the bigger picture. But what if, just for a moment, you could shift your focus, allowing you to see how, in those moments, things are actually shifting, rearranging themselves, to bringing you something better, almost as if the pieces that were always falling into place, just at a pace that only the subconscious mind could truly understand. And every time this happens, it becomes easier to see the magic in the process, even when it feels like things are broken, because in reality, they're just shifting into place. Have you ever noticed? Sometimes things seem to fall apart just before they improve, and yet somehow your mind always knows how to put things back together, how to reframe, shift perspective, and create new solutions. It's almost as if the things that fall apart, they're making space for new opportunities to emerge. So even when things seem uncertain, your unconscious mind can see the bigger picture, guiding you towards growth and possibilities that may have seemed impossible before. You know, when you take small action, it often feels like such a tiny thing, but deep inside you might already know even the smallest steps can lead to profound shifts. It's as if your unconscious mind understands every little change adds up, bringing you closer to the big shifts that you've been seeking. And when you take these actions, they seem to amplify in their effect, growing in power and momentum, just like a snowball rolling down a hill, gathering strength as it goes. Think about the last time you took action, no matter how small. Can you feel how that action created a sense of progress? Maybe even just a tiny sense of relief or hope. And now imagine how the next time you take action, no matter how small, that same sense of momentum will build until you start noticing your actions. They have more power than you initially realized. It's almost as if the more you take action, the more the unconscious mind starts to recognize your ability to make a difference. Picture, if you will, a small tree growing in a seamlessly barren landscape. At first it appears fragile, but over time you begin to see, even in the harshest environments, the tree is thriving. And in the same way, even in the most difficult circumstances, you can begin to cultivate hope. Just as the tree grows stronger with each passing season, there's inherent strength within you that, just like the tree, can flourish when given the right conditions. And in time, you'll realize that hope is not a distant, elusive thing. It's something that grows within you, nurtured by every step that you take towards it. When things seem impossible, it's easy to forget that hope, it isn't just a feeling, it's a process, something that can be cultivated like a garden, nurtured by small, consistent efforts. And every time you face a challenge, it becomes a little easier to see how this process works for you, how your actions, your thoughts, and your beliefs in possibility create the fertile ground for hope to grow. The more you believe in it, the more you see it's always there, waiting for you to tend to it. Sometimes when you think about hope, it may feel like something distant, just out of reach, and yet your unconscious mind, it knows how to find hope when it's needed most. And as you continue listening, you'll find hope. It's not something you have to chase, but something you can allow to unfold naturally within you. It's almost as though, when you least expect it, a sense of hope appears, guiding you gently forward, and each moment spent noticing this brings you closer to recognizing how always, at the core, hope was quietly there. Isn't it fascinating when it seems most impossible to find hope? That is precisely when the potential for change is greatest. It's as if in those moments your mind knows the very absence of hope is preparing you for a breakthrough. In fact, it's possible in those times hope is simply rearranging itself, finding a new form that makes the most sense in the context of where you are now. And just like that, you can start to notice how hope shifts, almost imperceptibly, bringing you to a place of understanding that hope is simply a part of the process of life itself. Imagine just for a moment that inside you is a great wellspring of strength, a deep pool of inner resources. You might not always see it, but every time you face a challenge, the well seems to fill with exactly what you need. Sometimes slowly, sometimes in great bursts. And when you draw from this inner well, you may notice that each time that you do, your sense of hope becomes clearer, stronger, and more grounded. And in the quiet spaces between, you'll find the new possibilities arise from the reservoir of potential within you. You know, when you think about overcoming challenges, it's clear you've done it before. Even when the road was tough, you found a way to keep going, didn't you? And that's the thing about inner resources. They're never truly gone. They're always available to you. And just as they've helped you before, they'll continue to help you now and in the future. And perhaps the beauty lies in knowing that each resource that you access brings with it new opportunities to transform, to rebuild, and to restore your sense of hope with ease. At times, life may seem unpredictable, even chaotic, and in those moments, it may feel like things are breaking down, and yet deep inside, you may already be sensing that the pieces, they're simply rearranging themselves, that this moment of seeming disorder is just part of a greater plan, a greater order that your unconscious mind understands. Each time you experience this, it becomes easier to see things that are always falling into place, even if you can't yet see the full picture. Imagine, if you will, a jigsaw puzzle. It looks scattered and incomplete. From one perspective, the pieces may seem random, unconnected. But as you step back and see the larger picture, you begin to understand how each piece fits perfectly. Just like that, even when things appear to be falling apart, they're simply finding their way into the exact place they need to be. And just like that, you start to notice how this process of transformation unfolds naturally, effortlessly, in ways you may have never imagined. Sometimes you may not realize the power of small actions, and yet, every time you take one, it creates a ripple that moves through your life in ways that can surprise you. As you consider all the times you've made small steps towards something important, it becomes clearer how each of those actions adds up, naturally, to create something greater. Even the tiniest choice can be the first step towards transformation. And each time you take a step, you'll find yourself taking more effortlessly, creating positive change in your life. Think of a seed being planted in the soil. At first, it's small, almost invisible, but with time, that tiny seed breaks through the surface, pushes towards the sun, and begins to grow into something strong and full of life. And just like that, every small action that you take is like planting a seed. You may not always see immediate results, but with patience and consistency, you'll begin to notice how the small actions lead to bigger transformations, just like the growth of that seed into a thriving plant. Isn't it true sometimes, in the most challenging times, your ability to find hope becomes even stronger? It's almost as if the difficult moments, they're providing the very fertile soil in which your hope can grow. Just like a plant that needs the right conditions to flourish. And each time you encounter difficulty, it's as if your inner resources are being nurtured, allowing hope to emerge and grow with ease, no matter the circumstances. Sometimes when everything seems overwhelming, it's almost as if hope is hiding just behind the next decision, the next thought, the next action that you take. And just like that, hope appears in unexpected ways, giving you exactly what you need to move forward. It's as if hope is always waiting just out of sight, but ready to grow and bloom in your life the moment you allow it to. And each time this happens, it becomes easier to cultivate hope, even in the most difficult circumstances, knowing it will always rise within you. Every time you notice how life seems difficult, you'll also notice how you can naturally connect to your inner resources, how hope begins to rise and expand inside you. And just as you take action, even the smallest one, you'll notice how these actions lead you forward, creating the transformation that you seek. As you begin to notice all the ways that hope shows up, you'll realize it was always within you, just waiting for you to reconnect with it. Your unconscious mind knows this. And as you move forward, every step you take will make hope more natural, more possible, and more available to you, no matter the circumstances.